welcome to the CNN IBN special. For over 3 decades, Arun Shourie has been one of India's most prolific and contentious writers and journalists. But his new book, Does He Know a Mother's Heart?, marks a complete break from his earlier writings. It's a harrowing and heart-rending personal account of suffering. It tells the story of a father, the father of a child stricken with cerebral palsy. It tells the story of a husband, the husband of a wife suffering from acute Parkinson's disease. And at the heart of the book is a questioning of the very existence of God. Joining us now is Mr. Shourie himself. Thank you very much indeed. What motivated you to write this particular book?
Well, you know, I once read a sentence of Jane Austen that write about what you know. So here are two persons, they are my life, I know about them, so I just wrote about them. And certainly for 35 years I have been reading the scriptures from time to time, and one of the points of focus has been what is the explanation they give for such acute suffering of innocent and good people. And those and I have found them to be worse than indefensible. They are almost a taunt at suffering. And we take them at face value only because of the reverence and fear we have of scriptures and of established religions.
The concept of God, which you examine thoroughly through the scriptures, to you is a man-made construct.
Yes.
Because if there was a God, and if, as you say repeatedly, if He is all-knowing and compassionate, why does He inflict so much suffering?
And all-powerful, and on His own telling, He invariably intervenes in human affairs.
Right.
Then why does He not deal with suffering, and why does He actually why does He create situations for such mass suffering? Not only a child, but 6 million Jews being exterminated, 3 lakh people being killed by the tsunami, or 1,60,000 by an earthquake in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So why?
And also that when you have good people and saintly people like Ramakrishna Paramhans and Raman Maharishi, as you have extensively pointed to their examples, when they suffer
Yes.
in the way that they did, that to you again is a manifestation of the fact that if there was a God and here are His greatest servants, why are they too suffering this kind of death?
Yes, that is one part of it, and the second is that they themselves then looked for all sorts of explanations.
Are all religions similarly placing this misplaced emphasis on God? Because you quote from Islam, you quote from Hinduism, you quote from the Bible.
Jainism has no concept of God. Buddhism, no concept of God. Godhead has been attributed to the Buddha, but the Buddha was silent on this particular matter.
But Hinduism, Islam and Christianity, which place an emphasis on God, you feel that is completely misplaced.
And Judaism, and all the earlier religions, for instance, among the tribes.
And you write extensively about Buddhism and how you're drawn to Buddhism. What in Buddhism attracts you?
Adit has a brain injury. The Buddha would say, I can't do anything about that. For that you should go to the doctors. But what is happening is that on this primary cause, you have built a 7-story structure. Why did this happen? What will happen when I age? Who will look after Adit when we are gone? I will help you dismantle that 7-story structure. That's the teaching of the Buddha, and that is done by these are constructs of your own mind. Here are ways to understand your mind and calm it.
Calm the mind down by yourself, not by
Yes.
seeking, but not
Right.
by relying on an outside objective authority.
That's a very important point, because his last words were those: work out your own your own salvation with diligence. You must work it out.
And you have a very interesting phrase in the book: put suffering to work.
Yes.
Make suffering an agency of action and make it an agency of service. Is that something that you have learned?
Yes, by both of them, and I have seen this is an example of many mothers who have worked, who have transmuted their personal suffering into service of others. And that is certainly, of course, this is among Gandhiji's prescriptions. This is a beautiful sentence of the Dalai Lama. He says, if you want to be truly selfish, help someone. You know, in Indian public life, there is only one person that I know of who does something conspicuously on some special day for persons with handicaps. And that's Mrs. Sonia Gandhi. On Mr. Rajiv Gandhi's birthday, you will find some photograph of her giving wheelchairs and so on. Why don't more of us do this?
Let me draw you to a slightly political question now. They often say the personal is the political. Now, you are quite critical of Hinduism. You're very critical of Hindu religion and the kind of faith it places in God. If I can just extrapolate from this, does this mean to some extent that you're distancing yourself from being a Hindu?
No, not that. I think these are almost Western categories. That if you are a Hindu, you can't be following the Buddha's teaching. But you are right that the explanations for suffering in the Hindu texts do not stand to examination in my small perspective.
Through the book, you have described how you've gone to many religious teachers and God-men. You have yourself gone to Sai Baba and sought Vibhuti from him. But now, what do you believe that was wrong? Are you disillusioned with God-men?
I think there's a Sanskrit phrase as to what sin will a hungry man not commit. So if you tell me just now, no, there is such and such person and he will help the child, I will naturally go to him today. But the fact is that in India, this idea of going to God-men, firstly we should please with very sharp laser eyes examine the God-men for a long time. The Buddha advises that. The Dalai Lama advises that. Very careful testing of the God-man you should do, or the Guru you should do, before you put your faith and your time in him. And second, that even at that time, do not then abandon your own critical faculties. And one of the tests that I have prescribed for God-men and Gurus is really, please see, is he making you dependent on him, or is he empowering you to do things on your own? Choose the person who doing the latter.
So you're coming back again and again to the self, to the individual, to the mind, to the power of the individual to transcend his suffering.
Or deal with it, yes.
Or deal with it. Your book ends on a slightly pessimistic note. Adit has taken a turn for the worse in your book. He has convulsions.
At that moment, yes, he had a convulsion. When I was just finishing the book.
Is there going to be another? Is there going to be a next project, a sequel to that?
Yeah, actually, I've been thinking on this because now this book I finished about 3-4 months ago, and I would very much like to do a follow-up book on this whole question of what is this priceless pearl in religion which we should retrieve, and what is the dross which we should give up. So this idea of external dependence was certainly not in our tradition. It is not an import, but it is a natural growth of despair and desperation.
Controlling the mind and a doctrine of humanism
and of service
and of course your appreciation of Buddhism. These are the kind of themes that you wish to explore, to really be able to transcend suffering and to be able to deal with suffering, not a dependence on an external God or a dependence on mechanistic ritual.